Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. It's Friday, the sun is shining, the weekend is nearly here. So I hope you're having a very, very good day wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. Plenty to discuss today. We've got to round up the Euro 2024 action. Arsenal heavily involved in it, of course, with Saka and Declan Rice playing for England. What you could probably describe as a transfer target, certainly a player of interest, starring for Spain yesterday, Nico Williams. Straight away, some of you guys were getting in touch with me on in the comments to talk about Nico Williams' performance in their win yesterday against Italy. So we'll discuss that. Got other questions and comments from you guys as well. Bit of an injury worry for Gabriel Martinelli over with Brazil as well. So plenty for us to get stuck into. First of all, by the way, no, not that shoulder, all those things on the wall behind me. As you can tell, you're probably thinking, what on earth is that? Is there something wrong with my screen? No, that's different sort of paints because we're going to have this room done next week, repainted, and we're just trying to find out what color we want to paint it. So that's why you're seeing those random blocks of different colors behind my shoulder today. Just wanted to point that out because I'm sure plenty of you are going to ask about it in the comments. But right, let's start with Nico Williams, shall we? Now, it's always dangerous to watch players at an international tournament, see them play well, and be like, wow, what a player, let's sign him. I'm always a bit sort of suspect about doing stuff like that, but I'm going to do it now because, oh my God, that was such a good performance from Nico Williams yesterday for Spain. Absolutely electrifying stuff from him. How Spain only won 1-0 with an own goal, which Nico Williams had a big part to play in. I have no idea. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. Wow, they are good. Anyone who wins this tournament, certainly on what we've seen over the first couple of games, is going to have to beat Spain because they're going to be incredibly tough. It looks like Spain might end up meeting Germany in the final, I think. Not in the final, sorry, in the quarterfinals, I think, which, on evidence anyway, from what we've seen so far, that probably deserves to be the final because the two teams have certainly caught the eye so far. But Nico Williams, what a fantastic performance that was from him. Now, look, we've got a couple of questions. There's one here from Ash. Says, Nico Williams Jr. just announced himself on the world stage against Italy. His release clause is a must. He's got everything that Martinelli has, but what actually might give him the edge over Gabby is his creative ability when he gets into the final third and beats his man. So often Martinelli puts his man on toast and then doesn't have that creative ability to see who's in the box and find the target. Williams has a way of almost slowing the game down when he gets into that position. Phenomenal player. And McCormack AFC, who does talk about Declan Rice at first, and we will discuss that, says, also, how electric did Nico Williams look for Spain? His 50 million release clause looks very appealing right now. And it does look very appealing right now. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he is absolutely, he was in the shop window before this tournament, but he has thrust himself to the very front of that window on the back of what we've seen from him so far. And look, £50 million in today's market for a player of his quality, his age, just looks like an absolute bargain. What I will say, and this is something that we've spoken about before on this channel and is known, is Nico Williams is on big money at Atletico Bilbao. We've spoken about it before, Atletico Bilbao, because of the way that club's run, which is a remarkable way it's run in terms of who plays for it and who they can sign or can't sign. They don't pay, big transfer fees because who they're going out to sign. And because they can only have the best players playing for them, they don't, they desperately want to hang on to the players they've got and the good players they've got. So they spend big money on wages. And Nico Williams is on decent amounts of money. And if he's going to leave Bilbao, where he's very happy, or he's spoken about before that he's very happy, the wages that he is asking for, that I've heard that is a sort of figure, the number that's doing the rounds in terms of what he wants, is big money. So as well as 50 million is an appealing looking release clause, it is the wages certainly put up the price that the clubs, any interested club wanting to sign Nico Williams, would have to pay. I mean, he'd shoot straight to the top of being Arsenal's, in the top 2 of Arsenal's highest earners, should he sign this summer. So, for a relatively young, inexperienced kid, that could cause problems in terms of wage bills and senior players around him suddenly seeing this young kid on more money. So that has to be taken into account. But in terms of a player, as Ash said, phenomenal talent. So exciting to watch yesterday. His pace, his ability to beat a man. I mean, there is question marks. I saw him getting good positions yesterday and not take advantage of it. He missed a good chance with a header in the first half. He had a couple of shots that he should have done better with in the second half that were saved. And so, when you look at criticism of Martinelli, for example, is he get himself in the positions and not been taking advantage of them. And so maybe, you can level that same sort of criticism in Nico Williams, certainly from what we saw yesterday. So you always have that. I'm trying to think of the right phrase here. I always get my phrases wrong. It's like the shiny new toy type thing, isn't it? Where the new toy always feels better than the one you already have. But I think you got to sort of contextualize it a little bit and think, well, getting Gabriel Martinelli, you do have a phenomenal talent as well, who has got all the abilities in terms of beating his man, destroying fullbacks that any other winger has. But maybe the one question mark it has over him is his ability to really take advantage of that in the final third and be ruthless in front of goal or when getting his head up and finding his man. And we didn't really see Williams take full advantage of some of the positions he got himself in yesterday. So that is one little thing. But on the whole, I mean, £50 million. I liked him before this tournament. But certainly yesterday I was sitting there watching that game thinking, oh my word, I would very much like it to see him in an Arsenal shirt. So, and plenty of you agree. And, Arsenal do like him. There's no doubt about that. He's impressed the recruitment team. They're well aware of him. Whether they actually decide to push the button and try and trigger this release clause and tempt him to leave Bilbao at the end of the tournament remains to be seen. But there's going to be a lot of other clubs looking at that. And there's always a talk back in Spain that Barcelona is the club that he wants to sign for. I can't see how they could afford him, but that's apparently the word in Spain is that he has an eye on Barcelona. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with him. But what a huge performance that was from him. In terms of what McCormack says here at the start, he says, hi, Charles, what do you make of Neville's comments that Rice can't control a game like Cruz, Rodri, Jorginho, etc., and that Arteta moved him to an 8 because of this? Now, if you haven't seen on the back of England's horrifically bad performance yesterday, wow, that was awful from England against Denmark. Genuinely up there with the worst performances any team, any country has served up at the Euros this summer. Had nothing about them. No energy, no pressing, no quality. It was just a horrifically bad performance from England. And Denmark absolutely will be kicking themselves that they didn't take advantage and get the win. But after the game, Neville was talking, the pundits were all talking about plenty of stuff and plenty of players who underperform. And this is what Neville said about Rice. He said, Arteta moved Declan Rice out of that position in the last 15 games of the season because he's not that good at playing there. Today is the most nervous I've seen Declan Rice. I think he's better moving up the pitch. Think about Cruz and Rodri and Vitinha at Portugal. Those players who get the team playing. Every team has that great type of player. We don't have that. Mainu, maybe Wharton. We have to resolve that problem. I'm talking England generally. We've never been able to get out from the back in moments of pressure. When he goes to receive the ball deep, when he's playing with his back to play, I think he's quite basic at that. I don't think he's as good as the other players who play in that position. When he's brilliant, he's marauding forward. He's at the top of his game. He's aggressive. Most of his touches are in that high left channel. For some reason, we don't have that balance in midfield, and it's a massive problem. So that's what Neville said about Declan Rice. In terms of your question, was it McCormack AFC? What did I make of them? I thought they were pretty harsh. Look, Rice was awful yesterday. I thought it was, like Neville said, it was one of the worst I've seen him play in a long, long time, if not the worst I've seen him play since he's signed for Arsenal. But there were hugely mitigating circumstances from that. And I don't really agree with what he was saying about him at 6. That Rice was brilliant at number 6 for the first half of the season when Arsenal signed him. Fantastic. He was great for West Ham playing as number 6 and for England as playing at number 6. That's why Arsenal spent £100 million to sign him. So I don't think that's necessarily true as well. Rice was already nailed on halfway through the season in my mind as Arsenal's player of the season, and that was when he was playing as number 6. Can he progress the ball like some of the players that Neville spoke about, your Rodri's, your Tony Cruz's? No, he can't, but that's not his game. That doesn't mean he can't play as a number 6. He didn't play well yesterday, but it was because England's midfield was an absolute mess. He had Trent alongside him, who in an experiment that is just absolutely not working. You had Bellingham, who had a dreadful game as well, playing further ahead. If you're Rice and you're basically on your own in that midfield because no one else is doing anything around you. So I think he struggled because of that. And he certainly got nervy because of that. And his passing was poor. But, Rice is still an excellent number 6. And he's played excellently for England as number 6. He's helped England get to the finals of national tournaments playing as number 6. I don't really buy into what Neville said. I kind of get what he's getting at, but I think it was I think it's far more complicated than that. England's problems in midfield, and Declan Rice certainly isn't the problem when it comes to England at the moment and how they're playing. They've got far bigger problems, and they've got to get the midfield right. And it's not about Declan Rice; it's about Trent. It's about moving someone closer in who can control the midfield a little bit better than Trent, because he's just not a midfielder, and it's just not working 100%. So yeah, it's a weird one. I can get in a way what he's talking about, but it's tough comparing him to a Rodri and a Cruz because they're different sort of players. That's not what Declan Rice is about, really. And they're also far more experienced. Rice is still in his mid-20s. When you look at those players and how long they've been doing it at the top of their game, they're much more rounded players because they're far more experienced players at the top of their game. So, yeah, if Mikel Arteta moves Declan Rice back to play number 6 next season, I'm not going to be worried about it. But certainly watching him yesterday and watching how poor England were pressing yesterday, there were times I was thinking I'd love to see Declan in that further forward, actually getting on, using that energy that he has to push forward and try and win. Because the one time England looked dangerous in that first half was when Rice did push further forward and did win the ball back, and England didn't take advantage of it. It was a poor game for Saka as well. But I mean, England were just dreadful, absolutely dreadful. I mean, Matt here says, "Dear Charles, is Southgate incompetent or just willfully ignorant to this squad's skill set? Vaguely related to Arsenal, but I'd very much like to know your thoughts. Love the show and your work. Southgate's not so much." Yeah, look, I think whatever happens, Southgate's going to go at the end of this tournament. I think there's definitely an argument that he should have gone a lot earlier than this. I don't dislike Gareth Southgate. I think he's done some good things with this England team, and he's just restored a bit of pride when it comes to England and getting England further in tournaments we've been for a long, long time. But it's impossible to ignore the negatives of his management style and how poor England are when they get themselves in front, and how they can't go on and kill games off, and how they drop back almost immediately. You know, he'll say he's not asking the players to do that, but for some reason under his management, there is a tendency for the players to do that because they don't seem to know how to go on and kill games off. They don't seem to have the direction from the coaching staff and the management to be able to go and kill the game off. And I also think his in-game management leaves a lot to be desired. So is he incompetent? I don't think he's totally incompetent. You don't do what he's done and reach the last stage of the tournament like he's done if you're incompetent. I just think his skill set is a little bit limited, and we're seeing that right now. And from what I've seen from England in this tournament so far, I cannot see that as soon as they come up against a semi-decent team in the knockout stages, then they are going to be going home, because they look an absolute mess at the moment. And I don't see any way that he is going to solve that. And unless he completely rips up the team and tries to find the balance that just isn't there, and I'm not sure he's going to rip up the team as he probably should. Moving on to Gabriel Martinelli. If you're watching on YouTube, you can see a picture here from Brazil training yesterday ahead of their Copa America opener, and Gabriel Martinelli took a bit of a nasty whack. I think he was going for a shot against, I can't remember which player it was now, but he got a bit of a whack, ended up falling heavily and was down for a few minutes. Medical staff came over, the training was stopped. Martinelli eventually sort of was able to limp away, and he went and sat on the touchline. Little bit of concern about the extent of the injury when it comes to Martinelli at the moment, but the word filtering out of Brazil is that it is not too bad, and he should be back potentially for their opener of the Copa America, which will obviously be a big boost for them, but it'll be a big boost for Arsenal, because it's a big concern when you see a player of Martinelli's quality go down like he did. But fingers crossed, it's looking like the initial signs anyway are that the injury is not too bad, and he will be okay to continue to play in the tournament. So that's the latest when it comes to Gabriel Martinelli. Kieran Tierney not looking anywhere near as positive, unfortunately, with that nasty injury that he sustained in Scotland's 1-1 draw a couple of days ago. He's already been ruled out of the third and final group stage game for Scotland, but I'd be very surprised, although we haven't heard any word yet that he is out for the tournament. I'll be very surprised if we see him in the knockout stages, if, of course, Scotland even get to the knockout stages. But as Anthony there sends in a question, comment saying Kieran Tierney injured again. I'm gutted for him. I think everyone is gutted for Kieran Tierney. Every time he picks up another injury, the troubles he's had with it, the fact he just can't keep himself fit. Obviously, we know how important playing for Scotland is to him as well. And the third and final group stage game is such a huge game for Scotland, and Tierney would have absolutely killed to be a part of that. For him to have to go off, stretch it off, and not be a part of it, it's going to really, really hurt him. And we're all gutted for Kieran Tierney, and hopefully he can surprise us all. And if Scotland get through, he can still play a part in this tournament, but you've got to think it's looking very, very doubtful. And for Arsenal's point of view as well, of course, being totally selfish from an Arsenal point of view, this is a summer where they would like to cash in on Kieran Tierney. They would have been hoping he was going to have a strong tournament at the Euros to put himself in the shop window. But instead, what everyone sees is him leaving the pitch on a stretcher. And for any club who are already sort of looking at Kieran but concerned by the injuries, seeing that is not going to, you would think, tempt them into making any sort of offer for Kieran. So not ideal for Arsenal, but a real hammer blow as well, of course, for Kieran Tierney. Here's one from Concept to Reality, who talks about, he mentions Conor Gallagher. And Arsenal having talks with Conor Gallagher, hand on heart, I've been a fan since his Palace loan, and even more so of late. So he's talking about Arsenal moving in for Conor Gallagher. And I had other questions about this as well, and comments about this as well. I don't know where this has come from, to be honest. I saw a bit of talk of it yesterday. Like I said, you guys were sending messages in to me, so I was trying to search to see, I've not heard anything about Arsenal and Conor Gallagher. As far as I'm aware, as far as I could see, these sort of suggestions yesterday all come for a report in Spain that were talking about Conor Gallagher, I think potentially for Atletico Madrid or Barcelona or someone, and it mentioned Arsenal as well as other clubs as having a potential interest, and suddenly that was being picked up and being reported by websites over here that Arsenal were now in talks with Conor Gallagher. I don't think there's any substance in it. I've certainly not heard it, and I've not seen it reported by any sort of credible source over here. So I'm not sure. I like Conor Gallagher. I think he's a good workman-like player. Do I think Arsenal should sign Conor Gallagher? Would he raise the level of this team? No. He's as a squad player, maybe, but do Arsenal need him? Not when you've got Emile Smith-Rowe, in my mind, anyway, because I think if you can get Emile Smith-Rowe playing and staying fit, he can offer you exactly what Conor Gallagher offers you, but more of a goal threat as well. So good player. I like him. I think he's going to probably move. It seems like he's going to move, but not really for me when it comes to Arsenal. I don't think that's really the sort of player that they should be looking at. And here's one from Aaron before we go now. It says, hey, Charles, we know it will be quiet in terms of incomings because of the Euros and Copa America going on, but most players who are on Arsenal's selling list in Nketiah, Nelson, Smith-Rowe, Partey aren't having any international tournaments right now. Wouldn't it be convenient for all sides if deals for these fringe players are done before the end of the international tournament? Arsenal loves the strategy of selling players first before making moves for incomes. Why aren't we hearing a lot in terms of outgoings at the moment, besides Nelson assessing his options and Fulham strongly wanting ESR? Well, I mean, the simple answer to that really is that no one's bid anything yet. And if you're, yes, Arsenal ideally would love to get all that sort of business done early on, but you need clubs to bid for that to happen. And clubs are going to hold on and hold on and hold on until later on in the window when they think they can probably get better prices for these players, because if everyone knows that Arsenal are looking to potentially sell Nelson and Nketiah, ESR, Partey, if you're a buying club, you'd be like, well, let's wait it out. Why would we do it right now? Let's wait it out until we get later on into the window. And then Arsenal suddenly think, oh, God, they're still here. We need to get rid of them. They can bid less money to try and get it done. So I think it's really as simple as that in my mind, is that no one's actually made a bid for any of these players yet. If they had, I'm sure Arsenal would have been talking and trying to get a deal done for at least some of them. But as far as I'm aware, no bids have arrived yet for any of these clubs. Any of these players, like Thomas Partey, I know for a fact that hasn't happened. And there's interest in all of those players, but no bids arrived. So yes, it would be ideal. Yes, Arsenal would like that, but until someone actually picks up the phone or sends the old fax machine, as it likes to be known in football, with an offer on it, then there's not much Arsenal can really do. All right, that's it from me, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. As always, I really do appreciate it. Have a fantastic Friday evening, whatever you're doing. Have a good start to your weekend. And I'll be back tomorrow to do it all over again. Till then, have a great one. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.